Hey, I'm Ethan.
Hey, I'm Mike.
I watched the first half of Past Lives.
I watched the second half of Past Lives.
And this
is the other half. Welcome back to another Oscar episode. We are talking about Oscar-nominated Best Picture movies, as we do every year. Movies we haven't seen already. This one is Past Lives, a movie that came out kind of early in the year.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking for a movie that came out this early to be nominated. Like, the only one that did it last year was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah,
and that felt like that was probably because it was like continuously. Like I felt like I kept seeing
continuous
ads
momentum.
about it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear. I heard about Past Lives when it came out.
Yeah,
and then didn't really hear much about it afterwards.
Everything Everywhere All at Once was also a very bombastic, loud film.
True.
This is like the complete opposite.
You're very right. You're very right. There's nothing fantastic about this at all.
It's so quiet and like real and grounded. You know, it's almost like a tone poem or something. Like it's so quiet, and like minimal. So that's sort of why I'm surprised. Like it is good. Like, I mean, okay, yeah, we've been doing this for these movies. It's good. I'd recommend it. But it's very surprising that like it's had this sort of momentum all up until the Oscars.
Yeah.
You know? Makes you feel like there aren't that many good movies out there, but yeah.
I mean, I would say it was kind of a slower year for movies, but also maybe because Barbie and Oppenheimer came out, maybe the Academy wanted to look back a little bit.
Yeah.
And they actually were like, well, let's see what like movies were kind of like a big splash back, you know, throughout the whole year instead of just Oscar month.
I definitely think I'd heard stirrings about like not just how good the movie was, but like how good like the acting was. I heard that like Greta Lee like did an amazing job in this movie. The one guy, and then the other guy.
Those two dudes. I don't know.
The two dudes. I only know the one dude from First Cow.
Yeah, that is the First Cow guy. I knew I recognized him.
He's so good in this.
Well, he was good in First Cow.
He's great in First Cow. He's so good in this. Everyone's really good in this. The acting in this movie is very minimal.
What I kind of like about this movie is it's basically just three people. There
Pretty
are
much.
like a couple side characters, but not really characters.
I don't think in my half of the movie I hear another person talk.
Really?
Yeah, it's really just the three of them talking at that point.
What I will say, what's very interesting about this movie, and I'm going to kind of spoil it up front, is that the movie ends perfectly in half.
Yes, it does.
Which is
I was
crazy.
so surprised.
I feel like
about
that was purposeful.
100%.
It had to be.
It had to be because it was literally my half of the movie. Yeah, spoilers. In my half of the movie, first thing I see is them meeting again for the first time in like 12 years.
24 years.
24 years.
Yeah.
Fucking nuts.
It was kind of a wild idea to do that. Like all the buildup is on my half, and then yours is kind of like the payoff. So what's interesting is you're kind of watching this movie without any idea of the context of anything.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious how things like landed, or if you're just like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Because it was such a vibe, I was really vibing with the film. And the acting in this movie, like particularly by Greta Lee, is like just insane. Like what's her character's name?
Nora Moon.
Nora Moon.
Or Nae Young.
Nae Young. She's incredible. Like everything she's doing with her face, with her body, every look, it's like I can fucking read everything, and that goes for everybody, but like she's basically like the protagonist of the movie. I think
Absolutely.
I think you're following her more so than like the other guy or the other guy.
Did you see if this was like based off of like
it 100% feels like it. So I looked up the director a little bit. She works in theater. She has I believe a husband who I believe is also Jewish. They live in New York. He's a writer.
It's a semi-autobiography.
I'm not surprised.
Because it feels like there's so many little details in this movie that feels like you can't write this shit in some ways. You know, like it's such inconsequential little details in this movie that don't really amount to much.
Yeah.
But they feel real. They feel like things that, as a person, you'd actually care about this a lot.
Right.
You know, like if you were in this person's shoes in a relationship or whatever, these moments would actually really matter a lot.
Yeah.
But I guess we should get into the plot.
Let's talk a little bit about these lives and how past they were.
Yeah. So, did you know much about this movie going into it?
I only knew that it was about, because I'd seen the trailer like a billion times.
Yeah,
I think I even saw the trailer with you, and I leaned over to you and I was like, I can't wait to watch that movie and cry. Like, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
I think so. So I knew it was about like two childhood friends who reunite after years, meet in New York, but she's like one of the friends, the woman is like already married, and her husband is sort of like trepidatious about this meeting, essentially, but also is like trepidatious, but also sort of like giving her the benefit of the doubt, like I love you, I trust you, but you know it's gonna hurt basically.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I think that's pretty much what the trailer shows. But so I have no idea what happens at the end of this.
Yes.
But so it starts off in a very interesting way. It has all three of them in the bar already. They're all talking to each other. But there's kind of like a narrator / third party looking at them. It feels like it's a guy and a girl who are like, you know, when you're at a bar and you're looking at people and you're like, I wonder if their story is.
Yeah.
It's someone saying that, and they're like, who do you think they are to each other? That's what they said. This person says, and one person says, I think the white guy and the Asian girl are together, and the guy is like maybe her brother or something. And then they say like, well, I don't know, maybe the two Asian people are together, and the white guy is their friend. I don't, because they're not really talking to the white guy.
Yeah, the white guy's off on his own.
Yeah, it feels like they're really connecting, and he's off to the side. They're barely talking to him. And then they're like, I don't know, maybe they're just all colleagues. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they say, I have no idea. And then Nora looks at the camera, and then the movie starts for real.
Whoa. What a cool way to start a movie.
It's very interesting. I liked it a lot. Yeah. It's very simple, you know?
Yeah.
And then it goes 25 years earlier. You got her as Nae Young. She's crying, and she's mad that her friend... oh my god, why didn't I bold his name? I felt like I bolded everyone's name in this. Hae Sung, I'm gonna bold his name real quick. I do that to.
Is Hae Sung the other the guy?
Yeah, Hae Sung's the guy.
Okay, got it.
And she's mad because he got first place, and he says, "You beat me all the time, and I'm never sad, but you're sad the first time I beat you. You cry." He's like, "Dude, shut up." So she's clearly someone who is like overachiever type person.
Right.
And so their family is immigrating to Canada, and she's trying to think of a cool like American name, and her dad suggests Nora, and she's like, that's a good name. That's cool.
That is a good name.
And so they have Nora Moon, and I'm like, that's a cool name. That's a cool name.
That's a pretty name.
So then let's see. Nora tells her mom, like, I like Hae Sung a lot. I like hanging out with her.
Her name is Nora Moon, and the director's name is Celine Song. Like, I feel like
pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty close. So she's like, Nora's like, oh yeah, you know, Hae Sung's like a manly guy. I'll probably marry him and he'll just do it because he likes me. And the mom is like, do you guys want to go out on a date? And keep in mind, these are like
babies.
These like 8, 9 years old kids or something like that. And so they do. They take him out on a date, but the two moms are talking to each other.
Did you ever do this? Date as a little kid?
No, it's weird.
I got married when I was a little kid.
What the fuck? Is that still legal? I mean, is that still binding? Like, did you tell your wife about this?
It wasn't a real marriage. Are you joking with me now?
No, I'm being serious.
No,
you
you're
got
not.
Really married.
You're being stupid.
No, I'm never. How dare you? I've never been
catty.
Stupid.
No, it was
That's
like
a past Ethan.
That was a past Ethan. That was the past life of
past
Ethan.
life. I gotta know about past life with Mike.
Yeah, there's like a whole like stupid ass ceremony that it took place in front of our house. It wasn't real, but like my mom was there.
All right, here's my fucking.
I bet there's like a photo of it too. Anyway, sorry.
Here's my quick soapbox about shit like that. I don't think you should be doing this sort of like when kids are like,
I agree,
boyfriend girlfriend. You shouldn't be doing that shit because you're setting expectations that girls are other.
Yeah.
For boys and say vice versa, and it's just like, no, don't fucking do that.
It's also like bullshit too, where it's like, oh, don't like teach kids like, you know, sex and gender identity, but also have them like get married to each other.
Yeah,
put them in wedding dresses and tuxedos and teach them about it's so much more vows.
Extra. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It is.
You are teaching them gender identity.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with you.
It's significantly worse. Like, whatever, boys wear blue. I don't give a shit. But like, fucking that is. I even remember as a kid, like even it felt like that because anytime I talk to a girl, I'd be like, oh, you got a girlfriend? I'm like, no. I just want to talk to someone who is
a girl.
Yeah,
exactly.
But it makes it all weird. Anyway,
get off that soapbox.
My soapbox is done. I'm putting it away. We'll come back to it maybe
that
later.
Was a past life.
That was no, that's current life. Gotta be honest. So the moms are talking to each other, and Hae Sung's mom's like, "Why are you immigrating?" So they're in. We didn't mention where they're from. They're from South Korea.
Yeah.
And they're going to Canada, and she's like, "Why are you immigrating? Like, your husband's a film director and you're an artist. Like, you're doing pretty well here."
Yeah.
And her mom is like, if you leave something behind, you gain something too. So I'm thinking that's kind of the thesis of the movie right there.
Later on,
she just told us.
She's Nora is told by Hae Sung that like she's a person that like leaves things. She's a person that moves and doesn't stay, basically.
It's true.
And
it's pretty true.
Yeah.
So Nae Young tells her classmate, she's like, I'm leaving because Koreans never win a Nobel Prize for literature.
This is so funny. All of this comes up in my half of the movie too.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Otherwise, why would they show it to me?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
They're just showing you all this stuff. I'm like, they're not going to talk about it.
None of this comes up.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they walk home together. Like, hey, Sung's like pretty sad, right? Like, I remember when my friend moved away.
Felt like the end of the world.
It honestly, like, I was devastated. Like,
because you have no control over that.
I have no control over it. Yeah. I was like, oh, we'll be friends. We'll hang out, and like. It's so much more devastating back in the day, too. Like, these people are about our age.
Yeah.
But, like, back then, when you moved away, especially as a childhood friend, there's, like, no way to stay in touch. Right?
Yeah.
Like, even...
Back in the... No internet?
Yeah. And my friend moved when he was, like... When we were, like, 16. Even then, it was like, well, I'm on Facebook. I'll talk to you sometimes.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not the same, you know? We didn't have the same sort of, like, online hobbies or whatever.
Where did they move to? They didn't move to a whole different country, did they?
No, they just moved, like... They moved upstate to places,
See,
like,
that's the other thing.
Far.
She's moving so far away.
Yeah, she's moving extra far.
Yeah,
it's, like, impossible to find her.
Yeah.
In fact, and then she changes her name, right? Like,
yeah, makes
it's
it even
impossible.
Harder. Yeah.
But so he's like devastated, and like they walk home, he's just completely silent. Like they split off to go their separate homes, and he's like, "Hey," she's like, "What?" Like, "Bye," and then he just walks off. And then her and her sister are in the airplane. They're flying over to Canada, and they keep trying to practice their English. They're saying, "I'm fine. How are you?" in English, and practice all that. They arrive at school, and they don't have any friends. Nora's alone. Like, that's very alienating to be in a new school. I mean, especially in a new country, you know,
with like a whole different language.
A whole different language to learn and pick up, like, so much.
Yeah. And like, I can't even imagine going to Canada. I feel like, what's going on? What's everyone talking about? They're saying sorry and they're saying
the English is so much different.
The English is so different up
sometimes
here.
when people get mad and they speak in French, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. I want to go to Timmy's. Who's this Timmy guy? And why does he make such a good
coffee?
Why
do they talk about their Timbits? I don't understand it. It's very strange. So they are. So now it cuts 12 years later. And Hae-sung goes into the military, because that's what you do in Korea. All men go into the military there.
Right.
And Nora is moving to New York. She's emigrating again.
Right.
She's gotten there. I think maybe she's been there for a while, actually, is what it's implied. So she's talking with her mom, and just on the phone, just chatting. And she's just like, let's just look up people on Facebook. She's just looking up people from their past life on Facebook.
Right.
And she's like, hey, who's that? Like, just so matter-of-factly, just like, what's that guy you like? We went on a date before we left. I can't remember his name. Like, oh, Hae-sung, look him up. And she's like, okay. So she tries looking him up. And she's like, wait, he's like posting on my dad's movie Facebook asking to like get in touch with me, which is kind of a lot, she says, but she's like interested.
Sure.
But also what I love about this is they really got old Facebook down. This looks like old Facebook. You know, this is 12-year-old Facebook.
Yeah,
it's got the old interface. I'm like, how do they get that?
Yeah.
How do they get that back?
Wayback Machine.
I don't think the way,
No,
but it's like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have done that and then like took the code and then probably
Used
like
it.
made a little fake version of it.
That's where most of the budget went, was just bringing Facebook back.
Facebook back.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
They went to Zuck and they're like, hey, bud, what did it look like back in the day?
He's like, I don't know, my past life. I'm all jacked now, dude. I'm doing MMA.
That's right. That's right.
I gotta fight Elon at any moment.
Mixed meta arts.
Beautiful. Put that on a t-shirt. So she's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go like look at him and like write on his wall.
Right.
And
God, remember writing on people's walls?
I know.
What a time to be alive.
It's also wild because she clicks on it and she's like, oh shit, I gotta write in Korean. Like she's
that's
clearly
right.
like adjusted to English as her primary language, or at least the one she uses every day.
She has to remember. Yeah.
I think the only people she mentions later that the only people she talks to in Korean still are her mom and Hae-sung. That's it.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
So she's not exactly it. So she has to like type on this American keyboard how like all the Korean like letters and everything. And it's just like it's a really short moment. I'm explaining it too much, I think. But I think it is a really
it is important.
It's very realistic.
They keep mentioning how 12 years ago they spoke, or 12 years ago there was like they attempted to connect about 12 years ago, and
this is the 12
This
years.
is the 12 years. Yeah, exactly.
So cut to Hae-sung. He's in Korea. He's wasted with the boys. He's hanging out with the
Yeah,
boys.
baby.
One of the boys just got broken up with, and he's just like fucking sad. He's crying, and they're all like hanging out, chatting. And then he gets like Hae-sung gets like a message. These guys are blasted. Great. Like honestly, one of the best impressions I've seen of like people being drunk.
Oh yeah.
Like it's very realistic because people aren't like over the top.
Right.
You can tell they're kind of like holding it back. Like we're trying to maintain our composure. We're in a public place, which I feel like is something that movies miss a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
that's true.
Movies are always like, this person's drunk. Whoa, they're gonna do crazy stuff. They're gonna be loud and boisterous. It's like, yes, they are, but also kind of trying to not be.
They're trying to
trying
to keep it in. Yeah.
Anyway, So he gets a message from her at like 3 a.m. and he's like, oh, what? And he fucking passes out in bed. He wakes up and he reads it and he's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, do you want to like talk or something like that? And he comes out, he's just hungover as hell, and his parents are like, hey, so you drank a lot. And so this kind of shows the two differences between the two of them, right? Like, he still lives with his parents in the same spot. She has moved. She doesn't even live in like, I think they went to Vancouver, maybe it was Toronto, I can't remember. Anyway,
someplace in Canada.
I think it was Vancouver. I think it was a little farther.
Vancouver is where all the movies are made.
That's probably it. She's trying to get a deal. Well, that would be where Dad went, probably, right?
Exactly.
So she went to New York. She immigrated again, and he's just one still sitting
stuck
there at home.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to school, so it's not like he's not doing anything, but like.
But he hasn't moved anywhere.
Yeah. But his mom's like, "Oh, you've been in a really good mood. Like, what's going on?" He's like, "Shut up, Mom."
Can I ask you, are these different actors or are these the same actors from like?
I think they're the same actors now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're the same actors.
Got it. Okay.
They just changed their hair. So
she's wearing like a pigtails. He's wearing braces.
Yes, exactly it. Yeah. She had a plaid skirt on and everything. Yeah,
exactly.
No, but they did.
He has a little hat with like a propeller.
To be honest, they did dress him up like what was in fashion in 2012 or 2014, I think.
Sure.
So you got the dress with the shirt under it, sort of thing going on. Anyway. I feel like that's just like peak fashion to me. Not peak fashion to me, but like peak fashion back in the day. Like that's the thing that shows early 2010s. Is like you're wearing a dress, you got a t-shirt under it. Like that feels like the time.
Yeah. And if you're a guy, you're wearing like a Legend of Zelda t-shirt
and cargo pants. Yeah, that's exactly. It was weird when he was wearing that. Pulls out a soju bottle from it. It's just like, yeah, I could put so many soju bottles in these cargo pants.
He looks up Control to lead comics after. I'm just talking about my experience.
It was really weird when he kept being like, that Lost comic really affected me.
It actually made me cry.
I never felt a webcomic move me like that. So
I'm going Newgrounds. Sorry, keep going.
I don't think Newgrounds even around in 2014. I don't know.
Newgrounds was around in 2014.
2014 was like. Yeah, maybe. All right. I don't know.
I believe it was.
I don't think I was.
If not, of E-Bomb's World.
I don't think E-Bomb's World was around 2014.
Stupidvideos.com.
I think you're talking early internet, dude.
I gotta look this up. 2014?
2014.
I'm gonna look this up.
I think those E-Bomb's World was at least like a husk of what it was by then. If anything.
Oh, a husk. It's too old now.
I'm saying like no one was using it.
I see.
It wasn't the hype it was in 20.
Then absolutely Newgrounds would be around.
Nah, I don't know. I feel like the Macromedia Flash was getting killed. Look. It's very important to talk about our past lives.
That's right. That's right.
So Nora's very excited to like come home and like Skype this guy. He's like, oh, I haven't seen him in a long time. I want to connect. And like, also, brilliant old Skype interface. They have
God, this is the one thing you care about.
No, it's great. It's a good. I mean, honestly, like that's the thing is like it puts you in the moment. Spot. You know, it's realistic. They even have the Skype call and it's like super fucking laggy, like the quality shit. Like you're not used to that anymore. You're like used to be like, oh yeah,
it's perfect.
It's pretty good. There's like a lag or whatever, but like
barely.
This is like you forgot how like ass it used to be.
Right.
It was like terrible and there was so much lag.
Doop, doop, doop,
they got the song in there and everything,
yeah,
you know?
Baby. Yeah.
Anyway, so he's talking to her and he says, I was looking for you. They talk for a while about like what they're doing, catching up, and it's like, oh, you're in New York. That's really cool. He mentions that like, oh, you used to like, you still cry a lot. You used to cry a lot. Like you cried that one time I like beat you, in school.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I used to cry a lot, but not anymore because I realized nobody cares here.
Oh,
like, damn. All right.
Damn.
Haesung is still in school.
She's speaking in Korean the entire time.
Yeah, they're both speaking Korean. Okay. Haesung's in school, studying to be an engineer. They mentioned they like it talking to each other. It's really nice to catch up.
Aww.
Nora's like, yeah, of course. I'm a really, really fun person to talk to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course. Which I think
they should make a movie about.
I think that's a self-insert.
Yeah,
the author's like, yeah, I'm actually pretty cool.
I'm really cool. People like talking to me.
So they stay up like late. They stay up late talking to each other. Like she's up till midnight. Haesung's like, I don't know if this is weird to say, but like I really missed you. Like it's been nice to reconnect. And she's like, yeah, I missed you too. It doesn't really make sense why we miss each other, but I'm like, it kind of does. I don't know. You guys are like close childhood friends.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's nice to reconnect
so now she starts like waking up at like 7 a.m. to talk to him because
so it's a regular thing.
The time difference. Yeah, they start talking all the time. And it's the only way it works. So she gets up really early, even though she usually sleeps until 9. He also takes off work early to like talk to her. he asked like, do you still want to win a Nobel Prize? And she's like, well, actually, I'm like more into the Pulitzers now.
Yeah.
Because she is, I guess we didn't mention it, but she is like a playwright. She's trying to write like
she's trying to write a play. Yeah, she's trying to write scripts, and then hopefully one day she makes one into a movie called Past Lives.
Yeah, maybe one day. Yeah.
She's like, what I really want to get is an Oscar.
That'd be wild if you want an Oscar.
She like looks dead in the camera.
Yeah. So he says, "Oh, you're still the same, like always shooting for the stars." And she's like, "Well, I got this trip to Montauk, which I believe is a place in Long Island. I looked it up.
Montauk, the Montauk Monster.
Yeah, well, she's gonna go there and he's like, where is that? She's like, well, have you seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? No, was it Little? Oh no, was it Little Miss Sunshine?
I believe it's Eternal Sunshine.
Okay.
Meet Me in Montauk is like a very popular quote.
Okay.
Eternal Sunshine.
Then yes, it was that. I don't know why I suddenly was like,
I don't know why my first thought of Montauk was now the Montauk Monster, which was like a weird cryptid that like came up to the beach, and I didn't think of Eternal Sunshine. Anyway, yeah.
Shows where your mind's at.
Yeah, truly. Yeah.
So he then watches it immediately, like to catch up and be like, oh, I know where it is now. She asked like, would you ever come to New York? And he's like, why would I come to New York? I'm like, obviously to meet her. I'm like, whatever.
To talk to her, yeah.
But he's like, I'm going to go to China to learn Mandarin. He's like, you should just come here and learn English. It's cool.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I need to learn Mandarin. It'll be helpful for my work.
Mm-hmm.
And then like things start disconnecting. Like the internet's not working all the time. It's kind of getting messy. In
hard
fact,
to connect.
She said like at one point, like, I actually like really miss you. And then it disconnects. So it's like,
damn sad.
Now she starts like sleeping mid past the calls. It's becoming just harder to connect.
Yeah.
And so she asked like, would you ever come to Seoul, or he asked like, would you ever come to Seoul? She's like, I don't know, why would I come back to Seoul? Yeah. Same sort of thing. And then she calls him one night super late after this montage, and she seems very serious. And she's like, when is it possible for you to come visit me in New York? And he's like, well, probably like a year and a half. When I get all my stuff done, I could probably make that happen.
Is he still like? Is he in the military still?
No. He's going to school.
Oh, okay.
And she's like, oh, okay. And it's gonna be like a year before I can visit you in Seoul.
Damn.
I want to stop talking for a little while.
Oh my God.
Because I immigrated twice to 2 different countries because I want to do something. I want to make a name for myself. I want to, you know, I should be writing or doing something instead, but instead I'm looking up flights to Seoul. Like I need to concentrate on my work.
Right.
And he's like, it took me like 12 years to find my friend. Like, why do you want to do this? She's like, I just need a break. He's like, all right. He starts crying, but he's like, I respect this. I'll do it. Go ahead.
How are you feeling? How are you feeling in this moment?
I'm sad. You know, I'm
Yeah,
bummed
it's
out.
sad.
I'm bummed out. Like, it's
sad.
like they seem to have everything, but I understand she's got to work. And, you know, I see.
Also, they're young, too. Like, she wants to, like, make a name for herself. She wants to do something.
She's got to do it instead of
She's
dating.
ambitious.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, it's fine. You know, we're not dating or anything. And she hangs up and, you know, she looks very sad. So she arrives at what I think is the writing place in Montauk. And
she runs into
it's very cool. Not yet.
No.
She arrives and writes her name on a wall. I guess this is a retreat that everyone goes to. Writes her name on a wall. Marks it as 2012. So maybe Newground's still around. I don't know. And then he flies out to China and lives there. He's like, I'll be there all summer, but beforehand he drinks with his boys. He's like, we'll drink till we die, because obviously he's sad because
she's not
basically got friend broken up with, which sucks.
Friend zone, but even worse.
Yeah.
Friend zone, end zone.
Not the friend zone, end zone.
Yeah, the worst place.
Can't even be a friend at that point. So then this new guy shows up, Arthur. And I'm like, this guy.
He looks like an aardvark.
He looks like a sadder Post Malone is what he looks like to me.
Oh, really?
To me. Obviously he's from First Cow.
Oh,
like,
the First
in my
Cow
mind,
guy, yeah. He's got the same kind of hair, I guess.
The same vibe.
Yeah.
Haesung's in China now. He's living there.
Yeah.
And so now she narrates this thing. Basically says,
there's a word in Korean. Inyeon. It means providence or fate. But it's specifically about relationships between people. I think it comes from Buddhism and reincarnation. It's an inyeon. If 2 strangers even walk by each other in the street, and their clothes accidentally brush, because it means there must have been something between them in their past lives. if two people get married, they say it's because there have been 8,000 layers of inyan over 8,000 lifetimes.
I see. Okay.
And during this whole monologue where she's talking, like she's hanging out with Arthur and they're kind of getting close. Hey Young also kind of meets a lady in China, and she's telling this whole, and it turns out she's not just narrating to us, she's narrating, and this is the first time there's any like sort of narration in the movie. But actually she's telling this to Arthur.
Right.
But Arthur's like, do you like believe that? Like between us? You think like because we're like hanging out together? They're drinking, so obviously they're saying silly stuff.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, this isn't us.
Damn.
That's just something Koreans say to seduce someone.
Mm-hmm.
That's smooth. That's smooth.
And it worked.
And they start smooching.
Yeah.
Then 12 years pass. They come
12.
back. Oh, I wrote it down. They come back from Toronto after visiting her family.
Oh, so they were in Toronto.
They were in Toronto.
Not Vancouver.
Mm-hmm. And it's revealed. This is a very clever way to reveal this information. They're at the passport check-in for the country border, and it's like, what's your relationship? It's like, oh, we're married now.
Yeah.
So
they say we're married now.
Well, yeah, they say married now. It's very weird, very on the nose.
12 years ago we weren't married, but now we're married.
Yeah, and it's showing that she's like casting like a Broadway play. Arthur has a book coming out named Boner. It has Boner on the title. I don't know what
Boner.
It was Boner.
I like this guy.
We start to learn a little bit more about kind of their relationship, because like up until now I don't really know a whole lot, but like he really seems to be a good husband. Like he's actually like learned Korean.
Yes. He's trying.
He's doing a pretty good job.
She's very critical of his Korean.
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he gets along with her parents too.
I'm sure they're very just happy he's trying. Like that's big. That's it's not easy to learn other languages. They probably know.
That's true. It's also not Latin based either, so it's even harder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, as they probably know.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's like, we're hungry. Let's go some chicken wings. And she wants chicken wings. And she's like mentioning like casually, like, hey, you know that guy, Hey Sung, I was talking about? Like this is it's this week. He's like, oh yeah, why is he coming over here again? And she's like, oh, I think it's vacation, but we're just gonna meet him up. And so his friends actually asked him the same thing, like, why are you going to New York? And he's like, oh, vacation. They're like, you're not going to go see that girl, are you? He's like, no, she's married. You think I'm nuts? I'm not going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, someone just says, you poor bastard. And at first you're like, oh man, he's commenting on the fact that like he's so desperate, but he just the person pulls up their phone and shows it to him and says, it's going to rain the whole time you're there. And they just start laughing. He looks very upset.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to rain?
Yeah, he arrives in there and it's pouring.
Oh, shit.
So he sits there in this hotel alone. This is like the saddest scene of just him.
Nothing sadder than a guy in a hotel alone, dude.
And guess what he's eating? Just a muffin. Bro, one of those muffins you definitely know
that
he picked
overpay.
up off he paid so much for that muffin. He's just sitting there. He's in New York, one of the best eating places around.
And all you're eating is a muffin.
He's eating a muffin in a hotel in the rain because it's so rainy. But the next day, it stops raining. He goes out and waits by a garden wall outside with his backpack. He's like checking out his hair in the water and everything. And then he just hears, Hey Sung. And then you see Nora.
Yeah.
And then my half end.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
That's so wild.
Like,
it has to be done on purpose.
It had 100% purposeful. It's truly amazing. And like that is like the half of the movie. I get an entire other half of the movie. These two just hanging out and talking to each other.
Yeah.
That is the rest of the movie. It's just them catching
all
up.
Set up.
Isn't that? And I didn't get any of that.
No, you didn't get any of it. You didn't get a single bit of setup.
So I was.
You don't know of any of the like the relationship between the two of them or anything like that. You didn't know they like reconnected after a bit.
No, they keep mentioning that they saw each other 12 years ago, but I thought it was like where? Like he clearly didn't come here.
Skype, baby.
Skype. I didn't know that,
dude.
And I also wasn't aware. I again was also like under the impression that like 12 years ago they were just like talking like not in any meaningful way. Like maybe it was similar to this basically. I had no idea. I mean, it's pretty clear that like they love each other. I think so. What do you think?
They clearly have something going on. They clearly care about each other. Now, whether it's romantic love or just like
I'm not even
deep
saying
friendship.
I'm not putting any kind of label on that,
Okay.
but I do think they just genuinely love each other.
Definitely do. Yeah.
Okay, so I literally wrote wow halfway point. Like I was so impressed. She sees him, and the minute they see each other, we get like a second or two flashback to when they were very young,
babies,
when they were babies, and they're like hanging out near some kind of like two like stone faces,
like a weird statue thing,
yes.
right? Yeah, that was their date.
And then she hugs him, and then he hugs her back, and then they both don't really know what to say. Like there's this sort of like weirdness between the two of them because they don't really know. There's so much they want to like talk about, but they don't even know what to even say. And they're also sort of just like overcome with this feeling that like they're standing next to each other, like just the very presence of the other person.
Very real when you see someone you haven't seen in a long time.
It's very true. So then it's interesting because then I really love how this movie is shot. So that we get a shot of, it's like a wide shot, and it's like him, and then the camera sort of like moves, like pans over to her, and then it pans over to him, and so we're only getting them like in individual shots, and then she just joins his shot, and then we see them walking together, and it's this really amazing Jesus. It's this really amazing sort of like. Sorry, it's this really sort of like amazing visual metaphor of like two people finally coming together after such a long time.
But then also shoots it kind of like Skype. In a way where it's one bit at a time. You mentioned how this movie's shot, and I think it's a very subtly well done.
100%.
Like,
it's not in your face.
No, it's not like, look at our cool art shot. We're doing a creative shot. It's just like very well placed cameras and very specific positions.
Compositionally, this film is just a beaut. Yeah. So they can't stop just like looking at each other. Like there's a lot of them. They don't even say much. They just
like really seen each other in person.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah. The last time they saw each other was on Skype, and like back then, Skype. Yeah, you really didn't really get that much. No. So they're just sort of just like looking at each other, and then they start to talk a bit more about their lives. She says that before she got married,
they're speaking Korean. Yeah,
of course they're speaking Korean. He doesn't speak English that well.
No, okay.
Like barely at all. Before she got married, she went to Korea with her husband apparently, and she wanted to see him and even emailed him. But he never responded.
Interesting.
And she says that she was very disappointed in that.
That is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. And then he also says like,
what was his reasoning behind it?
He says later on he was hurt. Like he was very upset by like how they had left things 12 years ago, basically. Yeah. And, he was like, he says he admits that he looked for her because he wanted to see her one more time and was angry that she left and angry that she never that she sort of like cut things off with them. Yeah. And she apologizes. And then he's like, what are you apologizing for? And she's like, yeah, I don't really know what I'm apologizing for exactly.
Well, I want to say that like I think I might have forgotten to mention this, but she didn't say like we can never talk to each other again.
Right.
She said like, oh, after like a year or so, I'll come back to you. And it makes it sound like that never happened.
No, it doesn't sound like it. I mean, I think, well, what an insane thing to say. Like, let's not really talk for an entire year. And then after a year, we'll catch up again.
I need to start working.
Shit happens.
Like, all you got to do is say like, hey man, I'm not gonna be as communicative right now because I'm really busy. It
sounds like she immediately got into another relationship with a guy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Which actually they talk about. They say that like at the time, I think he had a girlfriend too. Like their whole relationship thing just never worked out because it's like she was married and then he was like dating somebody. So like it just never. Yeah. It just I think it
is also implied that he recently broke up with her.
Yes, he did recently break up with his girlfriend. She's married. She says. Blah 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 blah. And he says like they're not breaking up. They're just sort of like taking a break because he's like. It's complicated. Like he's like, I'm too ordinary for her family, basically. Like I don't make great money. I don't have a great job. I make good money and I have a good job, but it's just not good enough, basically.
He was a pretty basic dude, like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Nothing really wrong with him, but nothing really extraordinary about him either. He's just a nice kind of guy.
That's what's sort of like great about this though, too. And this is something that is played with later on because the husband sort of picks up on this thing too, where it's like, the husband's like not that great a guy either, like they're both sort of ordinary dudes.
He wrote a book called Boner. Like that's pretty awesome.
Fair point.
Come on.
I mean,
did Hae Sung use his engineering skill to craft a giant boner? That'd be impressive.
He can craft one in bed. I'll tell you that.
Hey. That's not ordinary enough for his girlfriend's family.
That's right.
You're like,
too ordinary.
Let me tell you about this big boner I can build with this engineering. I imagine he's got like a little scaffolding made with toothpicks, like popping his boner up.
Oh, Jesus.
Like they're not like he obviously flattens them.
Oh, okay.
He splits
I was like, don't hurt your dick with your toothpicks.
No. He's clearly putting it on display to erect that erection.
To erect it. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, what was I saying next? Blah, 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 blah. 12 years. She says that her husband gets along with her family, but can barely speak Korean. And it annoys her.
So she talks shit on his Korean.
She does.
Which is funny because actually Hae Sung talks shit about her Korean. Says, your Korean's rusty.
And this is...
And she's like, the only people I talk to are my mom and you. It's like, who else is Arthur gonna fucking talk to in Korean,
And especially because he says later on that it bothers her that he's even learning it.
Weird.
He and this is a thing where it's like I think she's digging on her husband because it's sort of like I don't think she's doing it to really shit on her husband. It's more just to like I feel like people get closer when you like observe an other, you know what I mean? Where you're just like, you know that one guy over there, he kind of sucks, right? Let's both like talk about how much that guy sucks, you know? And so it's like Arthur's like a really easy target for like her to just go like, he's bad at Korean. Let's poke fun at the fact that like white people can't speak Korean, even though like he is trying really hard. And
he's trying really hard in a place where he's like clearly not immersed either. So it's like,
exactly.
I don't know.
And like later on, he does speak Korean to Husong.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Husong. Yeah.
And he was like, your Korean's great. Like, it's like your Korean's actually pretty good. Like, it's like the first like
impressive,
nice thing he says about his Korean. And then he immediately was like, no, don't say that. Like, I know you're lying. Like, of course I'm not good at it. It's probably because she's been fucking telling him forever.
Probably.
You know? So anyway, blah, 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 blah. 12 years ago, he admits he was looking for her, blah, blah, blah. She apologizes, doesn't know what for. She kept entering his mind while he was in the military. And they're sort of just like talking about
fucking
like,
lonely there, hanging out with a bunch of dudes, you know? I don't know.
and then this is sort of funny too, because this topic, it's like it's a subtle thing to say, right? Because you're just like, oh, you kept like, I just kept thinking about you. But it's like, especially when like I was in the military alone, like that can easily be portrayed as like I like was really missing you, you know?
Yeah, I'm missing
you could read into this.
Missing you in the construction boner.
Exactly. And then, or even just in like the, I love you so much. I need to, you know, I missed you.
Mike, that's exactly what I said.
Of course, that's exactly what you were saying. And then they're like, they both sort of like, they're like, you know what? We were babies when we first met. We were babies 12 years ago. And then Nora says, but we aren't babies now.
That's wild. Because at the time, probably 12 years ago, they thought they weren't babies now, you know?
Yeah.
It's so interesting how...
Well, you're the age that you're at when you're the age that you're at.
Yeah, exactly that. It's just so fascinating. It's such a meditation on like just kind of how people age and just kind of how they picture different chapters of their life.
Yeah.
And they're always like, I was just a kid. And it's like, you were just a kid, but you weren't as much of a kid as you were when you were like first met him. You know? Like that's when you were a literal kid. Now it's like, yes, you didn't have as much knowledge, but like you were an adult. Like people make pretty fucking drastic decisions earlier, and yes, they're maybe don't have as much experience behind them, but like they're still capable of making wise decisions.
No, that's true. Well, I think they're also sort of going like, wasn't it foolish that like we made that decision that 12 years ago to like not talk to each other?
Yeah,
I think they're both looking at it that way.
That's true.
So she arrives home. And man, okay, I don't want to be mean, but he's home and he's just like playing video games.
Arthur?
Her husband. Arthur's playing video games.
He's fucking himbo mode.
And well, I'm just like, God, this is like, it's like you see the guy, Haesung, and he's so fucking fit.
Oh, dude, he's got them cheekbones, baby.
He's rocking it. He's so handsome and attractive. Yeah. And then you just like heart cut to Arthur, and he's just like like double chinning, playing fucking like Taken or whatever. Yeah. I'm just like, man, this is such a, and it's like he's not trying to impress anybody right now. Like he's in his fucking joggers, you know.
Yeah,
like,
he's chilling out. He's just chilling.
But it's like
he's like trying to make a cool environment for you know this guy or whatever.
Well,
like,
he's not even coming over yet.
Oh, okay.
The guy that's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's just such a good like visual representation of just like, you know, like the man you got at home.
Well, yeah, it's like 12 years. What?
12 years.
12 years that they've been in a relationship. Like, you're going to be hanging out in your joggers playing
I
video
totally
games,
agree with
right?
you. It's just really funny cinematography.
It is very funny.
Like, you know, like hard cut to him. So she tells her husband, he's like, you know what? You were right. He came here to see me. It wasn't a vacation. He like genuinely just came here to like say hi to me and to see me. And you can tell, man, the guy that plays Arthur's so fucking good in this movie because you can see he's like really trying to come to terms with the fact that like he doesn't know how to feel about any of this.
Yeah.
Like, how would you feel about this?
I don't know.
You know? Like,
it's like,
I think I would probably react the same way he would, where it's like, yeah, like this guy means a lot to you, you know? But like, I don't know.
That's the thing is he acts so reasonably.
He
like,
does.
He acts like such a reasonable person. He doesn't like freak out. He's like, what the fuck, man?
No.
Just go take my girl. Like,
No.
he's obviously very secure in his relationship, but also like concerned in some ways.
Sure.
But not like
I think he's
super concerned.
I think he's secure in his relationship, but he's insecure of himself.
That's fair. I think that's a good read. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for instance, they talk about him, and she's just on and on talking about, you know, how good it is to speak Korean and like how nice it is to like talk to someone else who's Korean and all this stuff. And then he's like, "Is he attractive?" And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, he seems pretty handsome." And he's like, "Do you find him attractive?" And she's like, "I don't think so. Like, I think it's just I haven't seen him in such a long time. I think I'm just happy to see him, but I don't think that means I'm attracted to him. And again, this is like a very, like, I don't know, the acting in this felt very real, where it's like, I think she's being honest. I don't think she's like misleading him. I think she is genuinely like, I don't think I'm attracted to him.
I don't know what's going on right now.
I mean, how could you possibly, right? So yeah. And then, but she's like, I'm just like happy to see him. And then she says that he's very masculine in a very Korean way. I like wrote that down because I'm like, what an interesting way.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting way. I read a report recently that like a lot of men in Korea are going very alt-right. Very
really?
right for some reason.
Just like in America?
No, way worse.
Really?
Way worse than most other countries, which is very scary. I don't know if she's implying that.
I don't think. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, this is I'm just reading report. I'm just telling how it is. You know, I just read this online. I'm just seeing it. You know.
Oh yeah.
That's what I heard.
I just heard that, so I got a plane to Korea.
So I'm gonna yeah.
Anyway, so then they're in bed together. Oh no! Before they even get in bed together, they're just like sitting down talking. And he sort of jokes. This part was so good, man. Every fucking part between these two, the acting is really what like drives this. I feel like because he says jokingly, he's like, "Hey, you're gonna go off and run away with him," and then she doesn't say anything back. Ugh. But like it's so easy to read this as like I read it from his perspective as like he is like I said, he doesn't feel like comfortable. Yeah. Right, so he's like trying to seek comfort, and she's not
assurance,
and she's not giving it to him because she's like, that's obviously not going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So she doesn't say anything back, and then that joking question becomes a real question, and he's like, "You're not, are you?" And that is like insulting to her because it's like, well, why would you think I would do that? She's like, I'm not going to throw my life away just for some guy. But then she responds because then she realizes she's almost coming across too angry. And then she reels it back a bit. And she goes, I'm not going to like miss rehearsals for some dude. Mm-hmm. But it's like, that's not what he wants to hear. He wants to hear like, obviously I'm not because I'm so in love with you and I don't want to, you know, but that's not what she's giving because she doesn't even take this question like that seriously, you know? That's how I read it at least.
Well, I was going to say maybe she doesn't even know herself.
Maybe she doesn't. And so then they're in bed together later that night and he starts like laughing to himself. She's like, what are you laughing about? And he's like, this is such a good story. And I'm like, this is a bit where I was like, all right, this is a little on the nose. And he's like, you know, I'm just like some white husband in the middle keeping two long lost lovers away from each other.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is the whole stereotype of white guy, Asian woman, like whole thing. As someone who was in a relationship like that at one point, and let me tell you, the amount of stereotyping I got.
You were really the victim.
I was the victim here. Let me tell you. I'm just coming from my perspective.
Sure. I'm glad
my perspective of everyone being
like, you know what? That was valid.
Thank you. I was reaching out for some help, and I'm glad you came to my assistance.
Of course.
But you know, it's kind of like people do look at you as like, oh, you're that fucking guy. You're that fucking white guy. No, it's true. Okay. It's true.
All right.
People are like, oh, you're fucking one of those white guys who have like a fetish. Right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
She just happened to be Asian.
I'm just in a relationship with her.
In a relationship with her.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'll say, you are currently in a relationship. They aren't Asian.
No.
As far as I'm aware. I don't know.
Secrets. Who knows?
So what happens? So then he's like, yeah, like this is such a good story. And then he starts like digging on their relationship where he's like, you know, like we just like met one time and then we like hooked up because we were both single and then you married me for a green card and, you know, I'm keeping you from like your long lost love. And that's the thing is like,
that thing of her marrying him for the green card is very much probably something he thinks is like, maybe this isn't like full.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. And that's the thing is I don't know because I didn't know if that's the truth. I mean, doesn't sound like you do either.
Yeah.
But like but that's also kind of insulting to her because like he's making it seem like he's diminishing the relationship when he's really diminishing his. Like he's like, is this how you feel our relationship is? It's just like it's such a good little scene between the two of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, his insecurities start to become sort of like hurtful, and he's like, our story is so boring. And then she says, "This is my life, and I'm living it with you. This is where I ended up. This is where I'm supposed to be." And it's like that isn't really what he's like looking for, you know?
So I don't know how this movie ends. Okay. I don't know where they end up or who, you know. if she runs away with him, because the movie kind of feels like destiny, right?
Yeah.
It feels like this is what's gonna happen. Is he's gonna run away. He's gonna come sweep her off her feet, and they're gonna run away together because they were always destined. Because literally the entire half of my movie was just about their relationship. I don't know a fucking thing about Arthur. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, it's true.
But realistically, what she's going through is like her story
That's a very good point,
staying
actually.
with Arthur, if that's what the movie ends up doing, is kind of a boring ending, right? Like that, it doesn't feel very bombastic, but it's probably
a very real one,
more real one.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Because it is true. Like, what's he gonna do? He's gonna go back to Korea. Like,
yeah,
obviously he's going back to Korea. Like, she's not gonna go with him to Korea. She's got a whole life here.
Yeah,
she's married and shit.
Yeah.
So it's a fair point. It's a fair question. And she finally says, like, she's like, I'm in love with you, and he says, I know that. It's just hard for me to feel that sometimes. Like, he has trouble, like, really, like, accepting it. And then they sort of like get off the subject, and then he says, you sleep talk in Korean. And she's like, you never told me that. And he says, yeah, it kind of bothers me sometimes because it's like, it means there's a part of you that I can never see. Like,
maybe that's why he's probably learning Korean.
That's what he says. He's like, I know it bothers you that I'm learning Korean, but I genuinely just want to get to know you more. And it's like this, you know what? It's weird. It kind of reminds me a bit of, this is going to seem like a weird comparison. It kind of reminds me a bit of like A Place in the Sun, where it's like, you see this person that they've like carved a life out together, and it's like, he loves her so much. And I think she loves him too, but it's like, his neediness, not even neediness, but like his like absolute devotion to her just really feels like it's like not, I don't know, it's like not really like copacetic or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It feels like he's compensating for his own insecurities by saying like, I'm now wife guy,
Yeah,
I'm going to be the person who's going to be the perfect husband. I'm going to try to like learn all these things, and like that much attention and that much like coddling /
It could feel a little overwhelming.
It could feel overwhelming. I don't know if coddling is the right word, but
it's
like,
not even really like love bombing either. But like that's the only thing I could like compare it to.
It's very controlled. Like some people be super into that, think it's super romantic.
Yeah.
But for other people, it's just like, this is too much. You know, I don't need you to be at my beck and call. I don't need you to know every little thing about me. Sometimes I like having little secrets to myself.
Right, exactly.
Even if we are married and for, I don't know how long, 10 years, I would assume, something like that.
I mean, they've at least known each other for
12 years. We'll say 12 years.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, so that happens. And then next scene, she's going and hanging out with him the next day. So she's going to go hang out with him. Hey Song, thank you. Blah, 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 blah. What is going on? I'm sorry. I'm reading my notes.
Okay.
Now I'm going like, okay. So they go to the ferry to go to the Statue of Liberty.
Nice. Classic. Got to go that tourist route. When you're in New York, you got to go out, hit all those places.
Classic. So we see the Statue of Liberty. They're on the ferry. They're taking lots of pictures. There's one point where like they take sort of a selfie, and then she mentions like, you're taking it a little close to me. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then he moves a little further away. But it's clear like he wants to be close to her, I think. And maybe she was like, oh, that kind of felt like nice being like this close to somebody, but like she's also like, that's not really what I should be doing. And then it's later revealed that she's never been to the Statue of Liberty with her husband before.
Oh.
She's only ever been with him.
Interesting.
And
I don't know what
she didn't even know that.
I don't even know his like thing is like. I don't know Arthur's background. Maybe he's just like, I came from New York. I'm not going to go there.
Maybe.
And then she never had any interest.
Because later on when it's revealed, he sort of thinks it's funny, but she is like shocked. She's like, wow, we've really never been together. Like that's just something she wasn't even thinking about. She thought they'd been together. Yeah.
Like, obviously, you go to the
obviously you'd go.
Liberty.
And then they're looking at like old wedding photos of the two of them, of Arthur and Nora.
Arthur is looking at.
No, sorry. Nora is showing Haesung
Got it.
photos of her wedding with Arthur.
Okay.
And Haesung says, you look so young in these. And he says, and she says this, and this was such a perfectly written line.
It's the same actor, but okay.
What?
Just being dumb. Like it's the same actor. Like obviously she looks the same. But
yeah. Well, she says you look so young.
I know.
Is what he says. Oh, I see what you're saying.
She wouldn't be.
She wouldn't be that young. No, she's wearing makeup. He says you look so young in these, and she says we weren't planning on getting married so early, but then we had to get the green card.
So it probably was within like a year or two.
Which also shows like Arthur has this like idea in his head that they got married for the green card thing. Which is technically true.
And he probably feels like he's never like fully won her over.
Right, exactly.
Like he's always kind of in like competitions.
So it's like technically true that they got married for the green card, but she doesn't even like put it in those words. She's just like, we were gonna get married anyway, so we just got married a little early for this one reason. Not necessarily a thing for her going like, I had to get married to him because I needed the green card, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought like that was such a good way of like putting that like issue together. Just the different ways of looking at it. So then the three of them meet up, and Arthur speaks to Hae-sung, and Hae-sung speaks to Arthur in their own like languages. So like Hae-sung tries to speak English and Arthur tries to speak Korean. Hae-sung says like, wow, he's really good at Korean. And then they're like, what do we want to go eat? And then he says like, let's go to eat pasta. And they go eat pasta. And then they go to a bar afterwards. And it's the bar at the beginning of the movie.
The bar at the beginning of the movie.
And the three of them are like at a bar together.
At the bar top.
The bar top. That's right. At
the literal bar.
At the actual bar, their drinks are right there.
Yeah.
And at first she's sort of interpreting for both Arthur and for Hae-sung, and they're talking about like his military time and all that kind of stuff and what it was like and what work's like.
That sounds so exhausting.
And then eventually it's so exhausting that she just stops talking to Arthur completely and just talks to Hae-sung. And I think it's also because they're both getting a little bit drunk.
Yeah.
Or a little
it seems
tipsy.
more hard to be like, all right, that's what he fucking said. I don't know. He's
It's-
like, I went to the military and I was so fucking lonely. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm
Yeah.
tired. I don't want to translate this.
And I wonder, because like I know now that I know Arthur is actually pretty good at like Korean, or at least a little bit good. There is a moment where like it's just two of them talking to each other in Korean.
You probably can understand most of it.
Probably a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they just start talking to each other, and he says, he's like, you know what? I now I understand why you left Korea. It's just too small for you. It wouldn't please you. And then he says, you know, I didn't think it was going to be so hard to like your husband. Like, it's so much harder because I like your husband. You know?
Okay.
It's like, it's clear that he likes her so much and he loves her, I think. But it's like, your husband is such a good guy. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with him. Like,
he's really good at Tekken. He's really good at it. Like, I saw his skills and I was like, damn.
it's pretty fucking sweet.
Can't believe you play Panda like that. Like, no one plays Panda.
Not against you.
No.
And yeah, he says, I didn't think it would hurt this much. And then he's like, what would happen if I had come to New York? Would things have ended differently? Would things have been different? And this is funny because this is exactly the same conversation she was having with her husband last night. Like, would things have been different if like they didn't meet at that artists writers retreat or whatever? Like, could things have been any different? We don't know. And she's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you about this. Like, I think things just sort of worked out the way they worked out. And then he's like, I love you. Like, I really love you. And then she's like, you're psycho. Like, she can't like take it. Like, she can't really even express it back. And then she says, she's like, I think there must have been something in the past lives for us to wind up together like this. Like, something must have happened. And then they start like brainstorming things like relationships they must have been in past lives. And it's like sort of sad, but also sort of beautiful, because it's like they can't be together in this life right now, but they can sort of imagine what their life might have been in all of their past lives, basically.
Is there like a visual element to this?
No, it's just them talking. And then they mentioned the Inyun.
Yep.
I didn't know what this fucking was.
Oh, okay.
So they keep talking about this. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is. I'm assuming it's like fate. Like, I was just using context
Yeah,
clues.
you're probably right.
And then so then Nora has to go to the bathroom. The husband's fucking paying for everything, which I'm like, damn, bro. Fucking killing it. Trooper.
He's trying to really get all those good brownie points.
And then the two guys sort of talk to each other. And Hugh Song says, it's like, you know what? I think we're in Yoon as well. Like, I think the two of us are now in Yoon. Like, two of us have like a connection now, you know? And then the guy, Arthur's like, you know, I'm really glad you did this. This was a good thing for you to do. Like, even he's happy that this wound up happening, even. Which again is like, Jesus fucking Christ, it's so powerful, especially if you could hear what they were talking about, because within no uncertain terms they're basically going like, boy, if I wasn't married and if you could live in America, we would absolutely be married to each other and like happy.
I think though, like, just imagining that sort of thing, like, none of them are unhappy with their lives right now, right? Like, no one's like, maybe Hae-sung's maybe a little bummed because he just broke up with his girlfriend, a weird break thing, but like, no one's like super unhappy with that. And so it's just kind of a fun like exercise of like, what would our lives be, you know? Right? Like, none of it's like very serious. Maybe Hae-sung thinks it's a little serious, but like,
I think he wishes it was.
Yeah, and maybe Arthur doesn't see it that way. So he's just like, oh, I'm fine with, you know,
maybe
this thinking this.
Maybe. So now the bar thing is over. They arrive back home, and then Hae-sung needs to get an Uber, go back to his hotel. And he like shakes Arthur's hand, is like, hey, come, you know, hang out with me in Korea one day. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And then Nora's like, I'm going to go walk with Uber. So she goes downstairs There's this one long tracking shot of them just walking down the street for like 2 minutes, and they don't say a word.
I picture it's raining. I don't know why.
It's not even raining.
Okay.
It hasn't rained this entire time.
Wow, lucky him.
I know. Which was funny when they mentioned it was like, oh, it's going to rain the whole time. It never rained in my half
That's
the movie.
funny.
So they're walking and they're walking and they're walking, and they don't say a fucking word to each other. They're just like looking at each other and like speaking in silence.
Which is just like when she emigrates for the first time.
Yes, exactly. And then they get to where they're waiting for the Uber, and they just stand there. And at first they're standing like side to side, and then he like looks over at her and she looks over at him, and then he like has like a suitcase, and he moves the suitcase so it's not blocking the two of them anymore, and they just like stand looking at each other. And it's like, you know how people say like people are like eye fucking each other? Mm-hmm. This is like their eye marrying each other.
Wow.
Like they're like looking into each other's fucking souls and saying all the things that they can't say like in words, basically. It's so powerful, and it's a wide shot too. So it's like, and they're not moving very much. So you're just like looking into both their eyes and just like reading everything they want to say to each other. It's fucking beautiful and gorgeous. Then all of a sudden the Uber shows up and it interrupts the whole thing. So he goes off, tries to get in the Uber, and then we just get a flash of them when she's on the stairs going upstairs.
Going up to go to her place.
Right,
For
exactly.
probably the last time, I think.
Yeah, from all the way back when they first
24 years ago, yeah.
24 years ago. And then he stops before he gets in the Uber, and he turns around and he says, what if we're already something else to each other in the next life? What do you think that we are? And she says, I don't know. And he says, me neither. See you then. And then he gets in the Uber and it drives off, and we follow her, track her all the way back to her place. Unbroken, long tracking shot all the way back to her place. Her husband's out like smoking, waiting for her to arrive. And then she just starts fucking sobbing, like uncontrollably sobbing, just like the beginning of the movie when she's a little kid. And the husband, like, you know, rubs her back, like walks her up the stairs, which is exactly what she was doing when she was a little girl emigrating, going up the stairs. And then the last shot we get is of like Who's song in the Uber driving to the airport. And that's the end of the movie.
Damn.
Fucking powerful. I almost fucking cried.
You almost did. You didn't, though.
I was this fucking close. The only reason I didn't was I think like my wife was like doing the dishes, and I was like fully immersed in what was happening.
This is just the equivalent of her coming home and he was playing Tekken.
Yeah.
My wife was doing the dishes. I can't cry. I just got to sit here quietly. And they probably know it.
I also didn't want to ruin it for her because she wanted to see the movie. So I'm like, I don't want to cry, make her think it's really sad. But it is like, it's powerful. It's not even like sad. It's just powerful.
And that's what's kind of interesting about this movie is it's kind of like really comfy.
Yeah.
In a weird way, but also very powerful. And I think that's kind of a hard line to toe.
Yeah.
Because I think it just feels so real.
Yeah.
You know, like it feels like a real life, but it doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't exaggerate it either.
No.
It doesn't, blow it up in the movie terms. And I think that's something really nice in some ways because like movies like this just aren't kind of made.
Yeah.
Like the idea of it
Yeah.
is obviously impressive. Even Arthur thinks that. But the way it ends is like more realistic. Like this is just like something that's just like you can relate to this. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've not had a relationship with like a past person come into my life, really, to be honest. Love or even like friend, really that much. Fuck you guys. I'm usually all of you listening out there.
Damn, bro.
Hit me
They all
up.
follow you on
I have
Facebook.
I have Instagram.
They'll write on your wall.
Hit me up on there. Yeah, right on my wall. I should probably stop writing on your guys' wall like a little desperate guy. But anyway,
In Korean, no less.
But it's all,
they don't understand that.
I keep punching it into Google Translate for some reason. I was like, if they really cared, they would punch it into Google Translate back.
Yeah. They would say, fuck off.
Fucking hate you. But I think that's very impressive that a movie like this can be made, not be anything really bombastic.
Yeah. And
everyone can kind of relate to it. And I think because it's so grounded, so realistic, I think more people can relate to this than you would kind of expect. You know?
Definitely.
Right? Like, I never immigrated or anything like this, but it feels very real and it feels very solemn. And it's just very relaxing to kind of see it all play out.
Definitely.
You know, you're kind of like looking into someone else. You literally feel like you're looking into someone else's lives and kind of like getting the gossip. Past lives. You're kind of like getting the gossip, but in like a beautiful way, beautifully shot.
That's sort of what's so good about it. Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's an argument about to happen or like anything's gonna like blow up. It really just feels you're just feeling things, which is so
weird because like if you tell this to anyone else,
what
this movie's about, and like if you clearly like they have to make it seem like maybe they'll get together at some point.
Yeah.
But like obviously it's not realistic.
Yeah.
But if you tell anyone the actual thing that happens, which is, they don't end up together, they're like, why the fuck is this movie made? Why am I watching this?
To make you feel this, dude.
It's true. It's true.
Like, what does this feel like? I did have like a childhood friend. She was like in high school. You knew her, Susan.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, like it was not like this at all. But it is nice to like reconnect with people from like years ago and like catch up and go. It's really amazing to have that sort of relationship. Just go like, oh yeah, it's like no time has passed at all. We can easily just like catch up and talk again.
The thing about this though is that like no time has passed at all. But it has.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's the thing is like,
and that's what I think this movie like perfectly captures.
That's the thing is like when you meet each other for the first time again after halfway through your life or whatever, there is an awkwardness. There's an awkwardness of where to start because there's just so much time has passed.
Right. Like, it's like where do we even begin?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've even run into like old, and this is even like more extraneous, but like old college friends I've run into again, and it's just like. I don't know. We sort of like knew each other, I guess, but you can like feel that like difference between, somebody that's like a genuinely good friend and somebody that you just sort of like knew, basically. I don't know. I think this movie does just a really good job of just letting you fucking feel things. Like, I've definitely not been in a situation like this, but like you can absolutely feel what it feels like.
Empathize,
to just go like, oh yeah, man, this is so hard for like everyone involved. Everyone's just feeling all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, man. It's really beautiful. I
definitely would actually kind of want to watch the whole movie again.
It's not even that long.
It's not. That's the thing. It's only like an hour, 40 minutes. It's very short. Gets in and out. I wrote like on my notes and I was like, these notes are nothing.
I know. I did the same thing on mine. But then we could, and this is what I love about this. There was like no notes, but we got to like really live in the details.
That's the thing is that like there are so many unsaid things. Like if you look at the plot on paper, very short, very simple.
Yeah.
But because of the strong acting, the strong directing, the strong writing, it all works.
Yeah,
it all works.
There are
together
things
very
left
well.
unsaid that I had to write down and include in this. Basically, yeah, exactly. Like I'll tell you, I was kind of like rushed for time, so I was like, I wonder if I can just like get the synopsis on like Wikipedia and just like copy and paste it out of my notes.
Mike, how could you do that? Such a thing?
And I looked and I was like, I can't do that. That's not doing it like justice. There's so much like subtext here. There's in a look, in a way that like a composition is done. Like so much important stuff is going on that isn't just plot related. Because you're right. If you were to tell this plot to anybody, it sounds like the cheesiest fucking like romantic comedy in the world. That also has an unsatisfying ending.
Yeah,
but it's also a real ending, and it's a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
It's so good, dude.
It was good. I really liked it.
I really liked it too.
I'd watch it again.
Me too.
Yeah. It's not as depressing as some of the other movies we watched this year.
No. I mean, honestly too, like what's the scale here? It's just like three people that know each other,
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. Like
it's such a simple movie.
This isn't fucking Oppenheimer or like Killers of the Flower Moon.
Exactly. There's not a whole bunch of drama with people backstabbing each other.
Yeah. And, or even like something like Barbie, which is like about like masculinity and femininity and gender roles. Like this is way more quiet than all that. It's literally just like what it feels like to be human, I guess.
Yeah. In some ways, which is like Barbie in some ways.
Which is like Barbie and true. It's a little bit like Barbie as well.
It was very weird at the end of this movie when she's like, I'm going to go to my gynecologist.
Yeah, that's right. She's between sobs. She's like, I got to see my gynecologist.
Gotta go. And that was the end of the movie.
Spoilers for Barbie. Guys,
all right.
have you seen Barbie? You should email us at emailtheotherhalfpodcast.com. Let us know. Also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want to listen to our previous Oscar episodes, you can find them on any podcatching app. And while you're there, please leave a 5-star rating and review. We will read it in the show no matter what it says, even if it is spoiling the end of Barbie.
I can't believe I spoiled the end of Barbie.
I know. How dare you?
It's such a crazy thing. You don't even know. I didn't even tell you who was going to their oh my god, I forgot the name.
Gynecologist. Good night, everybody.